Start game now.
What? The Nintendo wristband is back? Welcome, retro fans. This is Retro Reviews with the No Swear Gamer. I am your host, the No Swear Gamer, and today we continue our ABCs of Retro series with the letter J. And we are doing another Nintendo game. Now, previously I gave this hint for this game. Jackie? That's because today's game stars none other than Jackie Chan. That's right, it is Kung Fu from 1985 for your Nintendo Entertainment System. One of the earlier releases on the Nintendo has the black box art there, if you will, with the little pixel guy there. That is supposed to be Jackie Chan. Well, kind of. Not necessarily in the American version. It's not referenced as much, but Kung Fu is based on the 1984 game Kung Fu Masters, which itself is based on a 1984 Chinese movie, Meals on Wheels. And Meals on Wheels starred Jackie Chan as he played the role of Thomas, which is the same name of this guy in here. And Thomas and his three friends run a little fast food wagon, hence Meals on Wheels. And they run into this girl named Sylvia, who they kind of all fall in love with, and she gets kidnapped by a mob boss because she is the heiress to a large fortune. And in order to rescue him, Thomas and his friends have to infiltrate a castle, just like Kung Fu, where you have to kind of go through this large building to rescue Sylvia, the girl. So there you go. The movie in Japan was known as Spartan X, which if you try and find the game Kung Fu or Kung Fu Master for the Famicom, you're going to have to look under the name Spartan X. So yes, this is supposed to be Jackie Chan, but we just don't know that here in the States. At least we didn't initially. So let's go ahead and pop Kung Fu or Kung Fu Master or Spartan X or Meals on Wheels into our Nintendo Entertainment System and see if this is a ride worth taking. Kung Fu for your Nintendo Entertainment System is best described as a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Actually, some people think that this is kind of the granddaddy of beat-em-up games due to all the punching and kicking, and I can kind of see where they're coming from, but when I think of the beat-em-up genre, I basically think of more of a 3D feel, such as Double Dragon or Streets of Rage, but I can definitely see where people would credit this game with trying to start that genre, if you will. It can be a 1 or 2 player game, but if you pick 2 players, it's just alternating. You take turns like you would at an old arcade game. You're not playing simultaneously, and also it offers you a Game A and Game B variation. So Game A is for the beginners, Game B is for the experts, and all you normal people, I'm sorry, there's nothing for you. Just beginners or experts here. So anyways, in this game, it kind of starts out a little backwards compared to a lot of games, as you start on the right side of the screen and move to your left. Now what it is it's a section of 5 floors, just like the movie. Well, I don't know if the movie had 5 floors, but it had a big old castle. So anyways, it's a section of 5 floors, and you try and defeat the floor one floor at a time. As you go through the floor, you defeat several lesser enemies. At the end of that floor is a boss, and if you defeat him, you can make your way to the stairs and climb up to the next level. An interesting kind of twist, though, is once you defeat the boss, you're not clear. Some other lower enemies can still get you, so you'll want to make your way to the stairs as quickly as possible, especially if you're low on health, because once you get to the next floor, you will regenerate all your health that you lost previously. But once you get to the end of a floor and you go up the next level, now you're going the opposite way. So the first level starts on the right side, scrolls to the left. The second level starts on the left side and scrolls to the right, and it keeps alternating through all 5 floors. Now some of the lesser enemies you'll face include just your regular kind of thug who will come in groups, usually in 2 and 3, and will basically try and hug you to death. They don't punch you, they just grab onto you and slowly suck away your energy. There's also a knife thrower who can throw knives both up high and down low. And the tiny Tom Tom, this little guy that you have to kind of duck to hit, who will bop you on the head. Later on, Tom Tom would retire from thuggery and live in small electronic devices, telling people how to get from point A to point B. In addition to these people, there's also a lot of creatures and other items, including exploding orbs, dragons that pop out of orbs, snakes, and poisonous moths. Yeah, that sounds really Japanese to me, especially with Mothra and whatnot. So yeah, poisonous moths. My wife thought they kind of looked like flying cockroaches, but yep, they're moths and they're poisonous, and you definitely want to stay away from those guys. But at the end of each level, as I said before, there is a boss. On the first level, you're going to meet a guy with a stick. On the second level, you're going to meet a guy with a boomerang. On the third level, you're going to meet Giant Guy, who looks like that one dude who played in the Green Mile to me. On the fourth level, you'll meet a magician who actually looks like he's being played by the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And finally, on the fifth level, you'll meet Mr. X, because Mr. Y and Z had the day off. And if you defeat Mr. X, you will save Sylvia, and Thomas and her can be reunited until the game starts again a little bit tougher. Yep, it's one of those games where if you save the girl, it just restarts at a little higher difficulty and just keeps going through the 5 levels over and over again. Overall, if you do beat the game, it's a short experience. It usually takes around 10 to 15 minutes to go through a game if you're so lucky. When I was playing it this time, I only made it to the 4th level, but I have beat it before. I thought that the graphics in the game were kind of bland. I didn't think anything kind of popped out. I thought the music was kind of bland too. It has a nice little theme, but they kind of play the same theme over and over. There's no separate themes for the different levels, if you will. Every floor has the same music. I thought the game played kind of well. You know, it's a little stiff. You can't do a traditional jump kick. You can jump and kick, but it takes a little getting used to. Also, it's a little bit harder to, it's a little less fluid when you want to go from like a ducking position to standing and punching. You can kind of get stuck for a split second, and that can lead to some quick hits as well. I also found that when it came to the creatures like the dragons and the snakes and the moths, that it was best just to run and avoid them rather than take them on. Now, you know, the other guys, like the hugging thugs and the knife throwers, it was better to take them on, you know, and knock them out with either your feet or your punches. By the way, the punches are a little more powerful and will give you extra points, but have a limited range. The kicks will have a greater range but are a little weaker and will give you less points. So that's kind of an interesting kind of risk-reward system that they go there as far as getting points. And if you hit 50,000 points, you get a free dude. So how about that? It is a pretty family-friendly game, but surprisingly, I think I found some blood in an early Nintendo release, which I didn't think was possible. When the knife is thrown at Thomas and it hits him, you actually see like a moment. I thought it looked like a little red splurt. It was really tiny, really hard to pick up, but there is just a little blood, and it is, you know, a game of, you know, punching and kicking. So it's not for little kids who don't know that you shouldn't solve problems with your fist and kicks all the time. But it is probably appropriate for more ages, kind of a PG kind of rated game if you're using the movie system. If you did want to buy this on eBay, even though it's an early release and one of the black box releases, it's fairly cheap. $6 or less should get it shipped to your door. And if you want a complete copy, you're looking at $20 to $25. So it's fairly easy to get a hold of. It was released as far as home consoles go, also on the Atari 2600 and 7800. Kind of late releases for both of those systems, especially the 2600. I think they came out after the Nintendo version. And when they came out to the Atari systems, they were called Kung Fu Master and not just Kung Fu, and they probably declared that they were based on the Data East game, so they weren't afraid to hide that, where Nintendo kind of hid it and they said that it was licensed from Irem. So kind of interesting there. So overall, what do I think of Kung Fu? Well, when I was younger, I liked it a whole lot more, but it's still kind of a fun game, especially if you're looking for something arcadey. Looking at my list, right now I'm looking kind of in the lower half of the top 10. And, you know, looking at games like Rampage or Dead Angle for the Sega Master System, you know, I think I'd rather play Kung Fu than one of those games, at least those versions. Maybe Rampage on another system I might want to play more. I don't know. I'd have to see later. But I think Adventure Island just has a little more depth and offers just a little bit more than Kung Fu. So I'm going to put it right there at my number 9 slot. So this is the kind of game that you can get on the cheap, and if you're looking to buy it, you'll probably just get it in a lot of games if you buy a group. It's not too hard to find, but if you're a big fan of Kung Fu, $6 isn't a whole lot to ask. So there you go, Kung Fu for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Next up in our ABCs of Retro series, we will be doing the letter L. And this will be my hint for everybody. Open and flee it is not. Open and flee it is not. So that is my hint for my next game. That will be on our next episode here on Retro Reviews. Hey, if you want to follow me on Facebook, go to facebook.com/TheNoSwearGamer. You can also subscribe to me here. You can also find out more about the Retro Junkies Network by going to theretrojunkies.com. Anyways, hope you enjoyed today's episode. Look forward to meeting you next time right here on Retro Reviews. Catch you later.